We just entered the park, Chapultepec, from our hotel, which is right across the street. We're staying at the Fiesta Grand Americana, Chapultepec, and we chose the hotel because of its location. It's literally across the street from the park. So now we are walking over to the Museum of Anthropology. It's early morning. It's about 9:15-ish, 9:30-ish, 9:38. We're running really late. But it's beautiful here in this park. I have to say the mornings are so nice and cool in Mexico City to the point where, you could use a jacket, but by noon when the sun comes into full blaze, you might want to take off that light jacket or that long sleeve shirt because in the sun, it will feel warmer than it actually is, closer to 80s. So far in this park, it's beautiful. We're surrounded by shade. Right now we hit a pocket of sunlight. Park has a ton of trees, has bushes, it has flowers, it has a little bit of everything, and I'll try to show you some of the grandeur that this park has to offer. Very early in the park right now, so it's not so packed, which is also really nice. So if you want to enjoy the grandeur of this park, one of my recommendations is to come early so you can really get some great experiences here in the park. This is an example of a floating garden. So you have this island structure surrounded by a canal where the canal feeds into the island structure. And it's kind of emblematic and representative of the floating gardens that were part of the Aztec Empire, part of Tenochtitlan. When Cortés and the other conquistadors came, they were amazed and mesmerized by these floating gardens. And it's an example of the agricultural and hydroengineering that the Aztecs had created. I'm walking on what appears to be like a dam. Like on one side you have full reservoir of water, and on the other side it's much lower, and it's flanked by two different islands. It's so cool. And you have a lot of these little architectural features peppered throughout the park, so it makes it a beautiful walk where you can just simply, on your way to the museums, admire them and enjoy them. Here's another example of these kind of canals and floating gardens that we see here. It's amazing. It's such a beautiful nod to the kingdoms that were before, that were in the past. So we're here at the National Anthropology Museum in Mexico City. This is arguably considered to be the most important museum in all of Mexico. And it is a vast campus. It is a museum where you could easily spend an entire day here and still only see a fraction of the artifacts and knowledge that they're offering. It's really a museum that's designed to be consumed over the course of multiple trips. So my recommendation to you is, if it's your first time coming, try to focus on a particular area or section of the museum as opposed to trying to see it all, because it can definitely be overwhelming and it can leave your head throbbing at the end of it, like wah, 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 which can lead to kind of that travel fatigue that we all get. The Anthropology Museum covers multiple points of knowledge. It's a true anthropology museum in that they cover the origins of humanity. So you have this general overview of anthropology, the origins, the human origins, how we as humans evolved and developed into societies and civilizations. It funnels down into something more specific, where how humans settled Mesoamerica, Latin America, and then how specifically the Mexicas or Aztecs came and built their kingdom and created what is the precursor to modern day Mexico. And one of the reasons why this museum is so important is because it showcases that civilization in great detail with a number of different kinds of artifacts and historical anecdotes that share with the world a little bit about the culture, the history, and the narratives of the Mixteca kingdoms, the Olmecs, the Toltecs, all of these kingdoms that came before the Spanish came and colonized Mexico. And why is that important? Well, because a lot of those cultural practices are actually still in existence to this very day. When you go to different parts of Mexico, especially with indigenous communities, you can easily find a lot of those same cultural practices. I think the most obvious example beautiful is in the culinary traditions. A lot of the culinary traditions that we enjoy in Mexico today happened millennia ago, were developed a millennia ago, and even further back. So it gives you a respect, it gives you an instant understanding for this culture, and that this culture has developed over so many centuries. It's really an ancient civilization, one of the great ancient civilizations of the world. And the Anthropology Museum goes to extraordinary lengths to show and teach you at the level of detail you'd like to understand. If you want to really drill deep, you can certainly do that here at this museum. So first things first, getting in line, you want to just prepare yourself because the lines will be long, especially if you happen to be visiting on a weekend when everyone is off work. This museum is also really popular with locals and Mexicans alike because, like I said, it's considered the most important museum in all of Mexico, so it's always going to be packed. So this is the entry hall that you are going to come into where you pay for tickets. You actually have not gotten into the museum yet. Once you can pay for tickets over here, or you can use a machine on the other side to pay for the ticket. And once you pay for the ticket, you go inside, and that's going to let you into the museum. This is something that completely eluded me beforehand, but they have an orientation seminar that you can actually attend if you want to learn a little bit more about where to go and how to navigate the museum. And it's right here. It's the orientation auditorium, and they have different instructions for you if you want to do Spanish or English, and they post the times at which. So at 10:40, which is about 30 minutes from now, you can attend this class to learn a little bit more about how the museum operates, the navigation around it, and maybe they even talk about some of the subject matters that they cover here at the museum. Okay, so when you enter into the museum, it's a huge inner courtyard surrounded by buildings, which is kind of like a traditional Mexican estancia, which is kind of cool. This is where typically people, if this is your first time people begin. It talks about Indian villages, as well as over here, this is the more important part of it, is that it gives you an introduction into anthropology. So it talks about the origins of human civilization, where we started, how we lived, and then it funnels down into specific Indian villages and different kinds of ethnographic and other cultural practices that are designed to prime you for understanding the indigenous populations that lived in Mesoamerica and ultimately the kingdoms. And then from the anthropology introduction and the basic rudimentary knowledge of Indian villages, it moves into Tenochtitlan. So you go right into the building of the capital city by the various indigenous empires that occurred. And then that's pretty much where it follows. It just goes into deeper dive into a deeper detail. There are outside gardens that you can take a break from when you are going through each of the different rooms, classrooms, where you're learning, and it's really nice to take a break. The gardens here are so peaceful to stare at. They have stone statues from the Mexicas, the Aztecs period, and they also have some beautiful native plants, the nopal, the cactus, the agave, and a lot of the trees to just create this ambiance of peace and tranquility, minus the leaf blower. One of the things that I'm walking away with is what a profound education it is around Mesoamerican civilization and the pre-Hispanic era of people who lived here. It does an incredible job. If you're from the United States, it's such a powerful education. It destroys the concept, the romantic concept of the Native American as being these stewards of the earth and earth lovers and peaceful people. These indigenous city-states were not peaceful. There's a lot of war. There's a lot of pillaging, plundering, rape, murder, human sacrifices. There were social classes. There were nobility. There were manual laborers, middle class, lower class, and of course there were also slaves. These communities, city-state nations, enslaved one another, and it really shows the full context of humanity here. It's a deeply humanistic experience to read and learn and realize that they're not so different from the rest of us. There are a lot of people here that were motivated by greed. They were obviously motivated by scarcity, resources and technology could only produce and offer so much. And what I appreciate and respect about this museum is that it does such an excellent job of educating you on a variety of aspects that dictated terms and conditions of Mixteca society, Toltec society, so many of these different societies, and you really walk away understanding that the motivations that guided them are the same motivations that are alive in us today. If you don't have time to visit this museum, what you can do is you can enjoy the beautiful art sculptures that are centered around the museum. We have this one here, and then there's a red one in the distance, as well as a turquoise colored one, and two dogs running around playing games. Now, day 2 begins with a monument. On the walk up to Chapultepec Castle, you're going to pass a monument that many visitors hurry by, but I encourage you to stay around. This is the Altar a la Patria, the altar of the fatherland, and it commemorates the 6 teenage cadets who died defending Mexico during the US invasion of 1847. Rather than depict battle, the sculpture actually turns inward. The angel you see isn't religious, it's an allegory of the nation itself. Mexico mourning one of its fallen children while quietly guarding the other. The 6 marble columns behind the statues stand like sentinels, one for each cadet who has died, and their remains rest actually beneath under that stone that you see there, making this not just a memorial but also sacred ground. It's like a mausoleum. This monument reminds you that Chapultepec isn't just a place of beauty or for royalty, it's also a place that showcases Mexico's national identity. So if you want to buy tickets to Chapultepec Castle, what you're going to do is you're going to follow the Google, just plug it into Google Maps, follow the pathway in the park, it's fairly easy, and then you'll see this like castle, little mini castle-like structure. This is where you have to buy the tickets before you go in. But you're going to buy the tickets here, and once you buy the tickets, you go along the path. Something that you definitely want to prepare for is that when you're going to Chapultepec Castle, once you buy the tickets and you go through the path, you have to walk up a pathway. The pathway is all uphill, so you definitely want to prepare yourself for that because it is an arduous hike. And if you're older and maybe you got, bum knees, or maybe you're not in the best of shape, you might find it to be a struggle, but just take breaks because it is worth it once you get up that hill and you see the grandeur of the castle. Chapultepec comes from the Nahuatl word Chapultepec, the hill of the grasshopper. Long before emperors and armies, this hill was sacred to the Mixteca or Aztecs, who revered it as a source of fresh water and a place of spiritual power overlooking their island capital of Tenochtitlan. The castle you see today began not as a palace, but actually as an 18th century military academy that was commissioned by the Spanish viceroyal government. Its strategic position made it ideal for defense, and in 1847, it became the site of one of Mexico's most formative moments during that US invasion, and you saw the memorial that commemorates that. Now, after independence, the hill's symbolism shifted. In the 1860s, it was transformed into a royal residence for Emperor Maximilian I and Empress Carlotta, who was installed by Napoleon III of France. France had invaded Mexico. Maximilian envisioned Chapultepec as a modern European court in the Americas. He added terraces, formal gardens, and a grand boulevard, which is today's Paseo de la Reforma, and it's actually modeled after Paris. Inside, many of the royal quarters remain remarkably intact. You see Maximilian's study, Carlotta's private rooms, and ceremonial salons filled with European furniture, mirrors, and clocks, all transported across the Atlantic. Carlotta's rooms in particular reveal a quieter, more personal side of imperial life, sadly before her tragic mental collapse and exile. After the fall of the empire, Chapultepec Castle entered yet another chapter. It became the official residence of Mexican presidents, most famously Porfirio Diaz, who blended European elegance with a nationalist symbolism during his long rule. Today, the castle houses the National Museum of History, telling Mexico's story from the Mexica world through independence and revolution. Its most enduring feature might be the views. From the terraces, Mexico City stretches endlessly below, looking at the Reforma unfurling like a ribbon, making Chapultepec the only royal castle in the Americas with this kind of panoramic view of a modern capital city. If you have little ones, you all can take a train. It's right by the Museo Moderno, which is right behind the train, and this little train takes you along path routes along the park where you can enjoy the scenery, which is great if you have little ones who might get tuckered out from walking a lot. Along this whole avenue, as you can see, they also have a myriad of snacks that you can buy. They have potato chips, chicharrones. They also have sunglasses and a whole bunch of souvenirs at these market stalls. It's a bit of fun, a bit of tchotchke, campy kind of stuff that you might like. It's a very modern, almost like a 60s vibe, but in the now, in the contemporary now. It's futuristic and it's very cool, very cool. Can't wait to show you inside. I'm excited to see it. Look at that stairway. Oh my God, it looks so cool. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Oh my gosh. Wow, it's like a sun. You guys, how amazing is this? This is the roof that is made of some kind of, I guess, orange resin of some kind, and it just reflects like sunlight, like golden dappled sunlight, and it's so incredible, radiant, and it just makes you feel enveloped. Let's go upstairs so we can get a better look at it. Wow, this is just so beautiful. It's very kind of 60s, decadent. The acoustics here are really beautiful, right in the middle. The dome on top echoes everything. It's so beautiful, so elegant. We had such an amazing time at the Modern Museum, the Museo de Moderno. It was much larger than I anticipated. It was, they had 4 salas or 4 rooms with exhibitions. 3 of them were open, and then they had an outside sculpture garden. And it was incredible work. I walked away with an obsession for an artist by the name of Remedios Barro. She makes the most intense surrealist paintings that I've seen in a really long time. One of the things that I love about artists or any type of creative person is when they can just live in their heads and then bring whatever world they're living in onto the canvas or whatever medium it is that they make. It's so original, it's so creative, and it really inspired me to just continue being myself, just being me. And if you know her work, the work of Leonora Carrington, who's also this kind of intense surrealist, she creates surrealist work too, and they have very similar styles. They also had a few pieces of her work at the Museo Moderno. It was really amazing to experience that. Oh, and then another artist, what was her name? Alice Rajon. Really trippy surrealist work as well. It's a great museum. What I love about it is that it's not so big where it just leaves your head feeling like 1,000 pounds. It's enough for about like 2 hours, 3 hours where you can meditate on the work, and when you need a break, you can go outside to their sculpture garden, which was pure heaven. You're surrounded by trees and nature with some beautiful art sculptures to kind of release some of whatever you're holding on to after a heavy processing session with the art, and then you can go back in and you can finish whatever it is that you were looking at or wanting to do. So important. Travel fatigue is real. You know, you're going to all these museums, you're walking all over the place, you're surrounded by people. Sometimes you just need a break. Here we have some squirrels that do not seem afraid at all of people. Hola, ¿cómo estás? Hola, ¿qué tal? ¿Qué tal, Rocky? Hola. All right, he has to go. Rocky had to go find Bullwinkle.